Well, let's talk about oil changes. I've got to do an oil change on this because it has never had one since I've had it, and well, I've never really done any significant riding on it, never had the chance. So since it's been sat for so long, plus it probably never had an oil change for a long time anyway, I decided let's do an oil change on it because hopefully this summer it's going to get a lot of use. Now this Super DX4 stuff, semi-synthetic 4-stroke by Putoline, or Putoline, whatever you want to pronounce that. Everyone pronounces stuff different, especially if you're American. It's not supposed to give any clutch problems because on these bikes, I think I mentioned before, on a lot of air-cooled 4-stroke, particularly smaller ones, the bigger ones probably not, but the engine oil is also the gearbox oil, and so, which I think is a little bit silly really, because, well, if your gears start to break up, or if you crunch the gears, or if you get a problem with the gears, you get little bits of filings come off. They also go around your engine, which I think is a silly idea, but it's the way that it goes. So it's always good to have two separate things, because if your gearbox breaks, you don't get bits of gearbox going around your piston, do you? And also if your engine blows up, you don't get bits of piston going around your gears. I don't know, man. But anyway, what can happen is if you use, I can't particularly tell you which oils are bad, but I did have a problem when I had a TTR 125, and I can't remember what oil I used because we're talking more than 10 years ago now. I really have no idea. But I did put some random 10W40 oil in there, and it caused the old clutch to slip, because obviously they're wet clutches. And then obviously what happened was I was like, well, the bloody clutch is slipping. What's the last thing I did? I did an oil change. Obviously that oil was causing the clutch to slip. So I went and bought some other oil, don't know what I bought, and it fixed the problem. But from my experience before, after I'd done that, I used this Super DX for engine oil, and I've used it in any 4-stroke engine with the same setup, and I've never had any clutch slip. So this is the best stuff to get, in my opinion, if you've got one of these engines, because otherwise you can have a bit of clutch slip. But a lot of people think that's how it is. You hear a lot of them, as they go down the road, you hear that clutch slipping. Kind of it goes like that, and you're like, well, obviously that clutch is slipping because they got the wrong oil, unless they're just a knob and they're just riding the old clutch anyway. But it shouldn't be like that. It should just be a straight gear change. But anyway, enough of that. Let's get to the old oil change. Before you do any oil change on any vehicle, you should always run it for a few minutes. Ideally, you want to get it as hot as you can get it. But if you just run it for a few minutes just to get the oil nice and warm, because the thing is with oil, the colder it is, the thicker it gets. So even so it's always best to run your engine for at least a few minutes. It's best to go for a drive or a ride, get it nice and hot to working temperature. But if you just run it just for a few minutes, 3 or 4, maybe 5 minutes, that'll get all the oil nice and hot, and then when you undo the old drain plug, it will just drain out, and you should get most of it out. Because if it's cold, you'll get some out, but because it's so thicker, it won't all come out. And yes, for those of you that are thinking, what happens if it's hot, or if you're in a hot country? Well, use your common sense. If you live in Australia and the temperature's 45 degrees, it's still good practice to start it up and let it run, but you're not really going to need to, are you? Because that engine oil is going to be pretty warm from the ambient temperature anyway. But if you're in a colder country like England, for example, or colder than that, when the temperature is 11 degrees at the minute, you're going to have to start it up and let it run. So let's do that. Now, because this bike is in the middle of experiments as such, the carb isn't tuned yet. It doesn't start on the choke at all, and it doesn't tick over until it's properly hot. So I'm going to have to try and start it up without the choke, because it won't start on the choke, and just hold the throttle up. But that'll be enough. Let's see if it will actually start. Just hold the throttle there there for a couple of minutes, let it warm up and we'll be alright. Alright, once you've got it nice and warm, you want to get your filler plug or whatever you want to call it. In this particular case on these bikes, the dipstick is also the filler hole. So you want to take that out, because what that does is that allows air to come in so all the oil can come out. This had far too much oil in it anyway, so whoever had it before me was a dickhead, obviously. Right, so now you've got that open, that allows air to come in. It's like when you drink a drink in it, you've got to allow a bit of air to come in, otherwise you can't get the drink out. So air goes in, oil comes out. You get your, obviously you get your socket. I'm explaining things like this because some people, you know, they need every step explaining these days. So you get your right socket. In this particular case it's a 17mm. Your oil drain plug is around here somewhere. It'll be on the bottom of your engine. Some engines are on the side. On these ones it's at the bottom, and they even thought about putting a little cutout. Some of them, they don't think about that, and they put this drain pad, they put this guard here covering up the drain plug, so you have to take the guard off with all the bolts to get to it. But these Demon X ones, they're pretty good, and they supply you with a little hole there. Get your little, make sure you're doing it the right way. You don't want to be stripping it out. That's the last thing you want to be doing. It should all, you're going to want to lean it towards the side of what the drain plug is on, but should be able to get it fairly loose. Try not to get it on your hands, because if it's hot it's going to burn, and burning oil ain't the thing that you want on your hands really. But there you go. And it should be able to just go like that. Oh dear. I didn't think it had much in it. I mean, I thought it had too much in it. Oh dear me, what's going on here then? That's not a very good sign, is it? No, we've got more out of it than what it looked like. It's just really slow. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't warm it up, but obviously 10 minutes weren't enough. Right. Another thing that you need to look at. Some bikes have, and cars or whatever, they have a magnetic drain plug. So if you have, you need to look to see if you've got little bits of metal on top of it. I think that's just dirt on this one. And it looks like dirt, feels like dirt. So you need to give that clean off. And then once you're satisfied that most of the oil has come out, I mean, you can leave it to drip for ages if you want to. I'm probably going to let that drip for another 10 or so minutes. And then I'll start to, I'll put the plug back in, obviously. You can if you want to, you can flush it out if you've got enough oil. Put some oil in and flush it out till you get good oil coming out. But put the old drain plug back in there and fill it up. Wow, running even faster now. It's been about 20 minutes since I first started. Bloody hell. Anyway, speaking of the magnetic ones, this is the, well, it would be. There we go. This is the one that came out of it, and this is one that I had in my toolbox. It was still in the packet and everything. Obviously I bought it for something. This is the sealing washer off of this one. But the thing is, I'd obviously bought this for one of the bikes at one point and then sold all the bikes and forgot I had the drain plug. Anyway, so this is a magnetic one. You can see it's got a little magnet there. So, and I've checked and this one fits in the hole. It's the same size. So I'm going to be putting this one in. So I'll have a magnetic one on there. That one's not magnetic. But yeah, it's been about 20 minutes, 25 minutes since I first started draining the oil. It's still going. Obviously didn't warm it up enough. I thought 10 minutes would have been long enough, but hey ho, never mind. The engine was nice and toasty. You can usually tell as well what sort of condition the oil's in by the colour of it. And we can see that it ain't, well, it's a funny colour. Some of it was a little bit white. But I definitely don't think that's been changed for quite some time, if I'm honest. So there you go. Like I said, I swapped this little bike for a nitro car quite some time ago, and I haven't had a chance to do anything to it. So this is the first oil change I've ever done on it, it went and sat in storage for a long time. And I thought this summer's going to be the one, man. Going to have some fun on a pit bike. So I'm still letting that drain. Doesn't appear to be any metal in it though, so we're good there. Okay then, so the last thing you need to be doing, you put your drain plug back in. You put the bike so it's level as you can get it in your facility. Now you want to just take out your, well, you should have it already taken out because you had it already out to drain your oil. But when you're filling it up, you put, you know, just sort of put a bit in, and then you get your dipstick, you dip it in. Now if you've got one that screws in, it's probably best to screw it all the way down, and then not tight, just do it tight as you usually would, and then undo it and carefully take it out. Try not to get the sides so that you can clearly see where your oil is. This camera's never going to focus on it, so you're never going to be able to see it. Well, you might be able to. You can probably see, hopefully, that it's just above halfway up the lines, which is where it should be. But when you're first filling it up, you want to put a bit in, dip it, see where it is on the stick. Probably won't be anywhere on the stick. So then you put a bit more in, and you keep putting a bit in and dipping it, and putting a bit in and dipping it. Obviously, you've got to wipe it off the dipstick on your bit of rag or your towel in between dipping it, so that you get a fresh reading every time. And then when you start to see it on the stick, you just keep adding bits until it's about halfway. Now some people have them put it on the full mark, which would be the full mark, which is right up there. Some people have them right up there, and some people, well, a lot of people think, well, that's the full mark, so it needs to be full. That's not right. It needs to be between halfway and 3/4, around there somewhere is the ideal space, because it leaves a bit of play for if you're going up hills or around, you know, on inclines or whatever. A lot of people just have it on the full mark. I know some mechanics that have them always on the full mark, and I can't understand why, you know, you're even taught in college not to put it on the full mark. But hey ho, there you go. So that's what you need to be doing. And just for some of your reference, if you've got a bike like this, 110cc little Demon X thingy, this was a 1 litre bottle. If we can focus on the old 1 litre thing. 1 litres. There we go, 1 litre. And it's used, well, we've got about 300ml left. So it's used about 3/4 of a litre to fill it up to where it needs to be. So there you go.